You wake up to the hum of a nearby generator. You make your way towards it and manage to reach it, but it turns off when you get there. You read the note attached to it, telling you not to power it on and off repeatedly, or it will lose power very quickly. So you fuel it up and check out the warehouse next to it. There's a workbench here, so you use some nails and an old plank you find on the ground to make a weapon. But you're infected with something, and you need to find a cure. You make your way to a nearby farm, hoping to find some help, but before you can even read the note on the doorway, some awful creature bursts out of the ground. You try to fight it with your measly plank, but you are quickly reminded of Roald Dahl's final words. This is The Fields, a Roblox survival horror inspired by Darkwood, Octic's Traversal, and Bedorkby's Isle. It's one of the best games I've ever found on Roblox. Unfortunately, it's dropped off severely in popularity over the past few months due to a lack of updates, but the developers are still hard at work making it. The premise of the game is pretty simple. For one reason or another, you've gone into an exclusion zone, fenced off by a company called Heimcore. You get infected with whatever they're trying to keep contained, and you have to survive while looking for a cure. This video is going to cover most of the game, including a lot of the lore and the theories I have about it. So if you're watching this and you haven't played the game, go play it before watching this. So how does the game really go, assuming you aren't crushed to a pulp? You probably wake up, go to the generator, check out the warehouse, but this time you don't go to the barn. Instead, you find your way to the construction site, east of the warehouse. There are plenty of materials here, even a nice pipe wrench, which immediately outclasses the spike plank in every way. There's also a chance for a crowbar to spawn, which will be very useful since you can break open the crates at your warehouse and tear down planks at locations. But you'll also definitely run into enemies here, specifically the Blighted. The Blighted are basic zombies, who used to be people that got infected with the Blight. Fighting them is pretty easy. Just walk up to them, parry, and then hit them. Repeat until dead. However, if you do end up getting hit by them, they have a chance to injure you. This prevents any regeneration. There are 3 different injuries in the game. A scratch will slow you by 0.25 movement speed. A laceration will slow you by 0.5 movement speed. And bleeding, which is the most dangerous, will make you lose health over time. Bleeding is also stackable. You can heal injuries using a simple bandage made from rags, a crafting recipe available at the base level of workbench. So you'll always want to have one on you, or you might die from build loss before you reach your workbench. Anyways, if you keep exploring the construction site, you'll find a note containing directions for the construction workers, telling them not to open any barrels without a respirator, and questioning why Heimcore contracted them just to pour concrete down holes. While exploring the construction site further, you'll find this drop down. You have to kill the 2 Blighted here, and you'll be rewarded with a dollar store flashlight. Great. Now you can head back to your base and upgrade the workbench using the materials you found, giving you access to more crafting recipes. Specifically, the sharpened spike plank and the Molotov, which are both pretty useless, since a pipe wrench is better than the upgraded plank, and gas is better used for your generator. You'll also gain the ability to repair some weapons with wood glue. By this point in the game, it's probably getting dark. The timer beeps and your character will beckon you to turn on the generator you fueled. It's obvious that you won't be alone. Thankfully, the first night is pretty easy, spawning 3 Blighted if you're not playing with anyone else. Or, well, it should be easy if you don't suck. After killing them, wait out the night and stay in your base, because if you don't, your character will start going insane, because obviously he's scared of the dark. If you don't have your generator on, you'll get the startled effect, draining your character's mind. If sanity drops below 40%, you get the effect lapsing into madness, reducing your damage by 20%. And if your sanity drops below 20%, your damage will be cut in half. And if your sanity ever drops below 10%, you'll get the effect lost, reducing your damage by a whopping 70% and making you slower. You can, however, regain sanity, using drugs of course, via the Hemecore Purple Inhaler, or just listen to the radio during the day. There's also one more effect if you aren't in any kind of safe zone during the night. That is Afraid. It will drain your mind faster than Startled, and much more importantly, it will begin to spawn Sporen around you. Sporen run and hit faster than Blighted, so you should really be parrying and killing them rather than running. Unless you go to your generator when it's turned on. If you do, they'll die. After the first night, your character will only have 4 days left to live, so you'll want to explore somewhere else, like the forest. When coming near, you'll see a campfire with a grizzled man standing next to it. If you talk to him, he'll tell you about the trees talking and the ground breathing, and offer some nice trades. This is the hunter. If you talk to him again, he'll ask you to get some wire for his traps. Starting your quest, you'll have to head back to that drop down to get the wire, and when you come back, he'll look more pale than usual. He'll still reward you with the blowtorch when you give the wire to him though. The next thing you need to upgrade your workbench. For the next quest, he asks you for a salve to delay his infection, made out of a blighted poppy and an empty vial. He'll tell you to go to the cornfield next to the barn to get it. And while he does warn you about noises coming from the ground, you won't actually have to fight the brute for the items. You'll also need to upgrade your workbench to level 3 using the blowtorch and some materials in order to craft the blighted salve. This will unlock the recipe for a baseball bat, bear trap, and axe. The baseball bat is a mediocre weapon, but it is better than the spike plank. The axe, on the other hand, is in my opinion the best weapon the game has to offer. You'll need an axe head, a plank, and some tape to make it. You know, however the hell that works. But once you do, it'll probably last you the rest of the game, with its high durability, repairability, and high damage. You might notice though in the footage that I'm not using the axe. That's because I'm using the axe's weird cousin, the sledgehammer. Unlike the axe that you can craft reliably, you get the sledgehammer through gambling, since it has a small chance to spawn in these locations, or not at all. However, unlike the axe, it two-shots every enemy in the game, so it's great if you can find it. The bear trap is also decent, especially on the final night. When you head back to the hunter, he'll look even worse, saying his coughing and illness are progressing. And when you give him the blighted salve, it won't work. So much for some sort of treatment. He'll still keep up his end of the bargain though, and give you a heavy-duty toolbox for the final bench upgrade. He'll also tell you to get supplies from the Hemecore checkpoint, handing you a medical crate key. You can head back to the warehouse at this point and upgrade your workbench, unlocking the reinforced bat, explosive bear trap, and blighted solution. The reinforced bat is good, but again, the axe just outclasses it. The explosive bear trap, however, can be useful on the final night. The blighted solution will give you strength, but lower your mind. It's decent. At this point, it will probably be getting dark again. On night 2, friendly NPCs with no eyes will spawn. Just kidding, it's the second enemy, the Shrieker. The Shrieker will, well, shriek, blowing out your eardrums in real life and spawning up to 3 more enemies in the game, excluding brutes, shriekers, and sporen. After that, they die. They are, however, really easy to kill, usually dying in 1 or 2 hits depending on the weapon you're using. It's best to use third person to peek around the corner and kill them when they get close. This way they won't have time to scream. An odd thing about the Shrieker though is they all look very similar, like an imitation of a human. Unlike the Blighted, who look like different infected people and don't have the ability to speak. So it seems like the Blight might be manufacturing weapons, not just infecting humans. This is really weird. It's like a sign of intelligence. The Blight knows what it's up against and makes these imitations to lure you. The second night is pretty easy, so after killing the enemies, it's just a little bit of waiting around for the sun to rise. It's best to complete the Hunter's quest on day 3. To do this, you'll need to head past the barn where you'll reach a radio station. This isn't the checkpoint where the hunter told you to go, but it's always useful to check it out. There'll be a dead blighted along with a pipe wrench and a watch outside the radio station, along with 3 newspaper sheets scattered around. They show how Hemecore just played off everything that was happening in the fields, and how the fungal blight was spreading while they tried to burn crops to contain it. It's obvious they failed though, and the public weren't having it. It's hard to say what the morality of Hemecore is. since they were aware of the blight and trying to contain its spread, but it's not certain whether they had something to do with its creation, or who they are shielding by lying about its existence. There are also walkie-talkies stored in the radio room, so if you're text chatting with randoms, you can carry these around, although they will take an inventory slot, which is pretty silly in my opinion. They should just be an accessory, like the compass. Oh yeah, accessories. I haven't talked about those. Accessories are just items that you can wear. The backpack gives 3 slots of storage, the watch tells you what time it is so you know when it's going to be night, the compass helps with direction, and the flashlight improves visibility. The walkie-talkie really should be an accessory since it's not very useful. Anyways, if you head south, or to the left of the radio station, you'll find the checkpoint the hunter was talking about. There's an automated voice on the speakers looping some old lines, one of them being particularly interesting.
This is a priority alert for armed Hemcore personnel. Armed survivors attempting to access Research Lab 5.
So it's obvious that Hemcore are researching the infection, and survivors are likely raiding the lab because they don't trust Hemcore. But back to the checkpoint, there doesn't seem to be any enemies around. That is, until you get close. This is the Brute. You probably remember it from the intro of the video. It's an advanced version of the Blighted with mushrooms growing along its upper body. It's faster, has more health, and does more damage than the Blighted. And you also can't just parry all its hits. Every 3 hits, the Brute's mushrooms will start glowing, signaling his next attack will be a heavy swing. This attack has a really big hitbox and you're not able to block it. It also does the most damage of any enemy attack, so you should parry the normal attacks and then bait out the heavy ones. Once it's dead, you can move on. There are 2 ammo boxes here, 1 pistol and 1 shotgun, which are extremely useful if you have either. But past that is where the medical crate is. Opening it up reveals 3 medkits. You can grab some and start heading towards the hunter, but on the way you'll pass the hangar, and it's definitely worth looting even if you don't have any inventory slots left, since the backpack has a chance of spawning here. There's 1 Blighted in the hangar, along with something much more important, the Hemcore crate. If you've gone to the construction site and the radio tower at this point, you'll have found key parts 1 and 2. Combining them at a level 3 workbench or higher will give you the Hemcore key. This is what you use to unlock the crate to get the Ritual Blade. The Ritual Blade is one of the best weapons in the game. It has a very fast swing speed, it does 30 damage, and when you parry with it, the next attack does 60 damage. And this would be great, except it's worth 1,000 reputation with traders. That might seem good, but the value to traders completely overrides its combat value, since you can sell it to buy something much better. Not only that, but the key is worth the same amount, so selling the key outright is usually the best play. There's no lore in the warehouse other than a note talking about a Shrieker encounter. After looting the storage hangar, it would be wise to head back to the hunter. After all, the medkits might actually be able to cure or at least postpone the infection. And once you arrive, he'll be dead, colored green and slumped over on the floor. One thing that strikes me as odd is that he won't be a zombie, just seemingly dead from the blight. If you open up a medkit, you'll just get bandages, so there was never any hope of a cure from them. Next to his body, you'll find a rusty key that you can use to open up his cabin. This is where some of the best in-game weapons are. There's a hunting knife, which has good DPS, an axe head, which you can use to craft the axe, and most importantly of all, the shotgun, along with a bunch of shells. There's also a yellowed and very vengeful note written by the hunter, telling you to use his weapons. So he certainly didn't die in vain. After this long journey, it'll definitely be getting dark again, so you should head back to your warehouse. Then night 3 will begin. As usual, Blighted and Shriekers will appear, although more of them, along with the Spitter, who spits. Yeah, wow, who would have guessed? It's best to break line of sight with the Spitter and attack them when they're close, or just shoot them. There is also one more enemy that spawns during night 3. That is the Addict. The Addict is a pretty sad sight in the game. It appears to be a child infected with the Blight. If you get close, they'll run off, so there's no reason to kill. Wait, 1 second. What was it doing? They drink your gas? Never mind, shoot them. You know how expensive gas is? This is definitely a pretty difficult night. You'll have to juggle the Spitters, Shriekers, Blighted, and Addicts while also conserving bullets and bear traps for the last night. After it's all over though, you'll have 2 days left to live. So if there's any time to find a cure, then it's now. You can definitely take out the Brute at the barn at this time, so after killing him, you'll be able to read the note on the door. It's written by the owner of the farm. He talks about how the crops seem to bleed and how all the animals just stare at the moon at night, like they're waiting for something. You're kind of supposed to read this note at the beginning of the game, so it just talks about like weird stuff and the blight. It's not super important. But if you head east, you'll run into a new face, the merchant. He'll greet you happily, but unlike the hunter, he seems kind of off his rocker. He only has one arm and his trades are a little bit weird. He can sell you a revolver for 910 reputation, and it's a good weapon. It'll give you a way to use any revolver bolts you find, but he does have one interesting item, the suspicious key. Maybe this will help you find the cure. If you head north from the merchant, you'll find the church. There's 2 blighted, which you can easily take out. There's also a note from the pastor, talking about how the blight is a punishment for man's greed. There's another note next to the altar, this one much more delusional. The man talks about seeing a tree in his dreams, a very ancient tree. He says that he sat under the tree and wept, and the soil wept back. Clearly he was infected with the blight, or maybe he was just going insane. It's clear by this point in the game that the blight is a large mycelium network, releasing spores into the air and spreading. Although rather than helping the environment like they do in real life, the blight dominates. But there's one more note, a black paper hidden behind a crate. It talks about the tree too being in their dreams, and spores blooming in their lungs. It instructs the reader to go to the tree when their mind frays thin, and speak an odd prayer. All of this lends to a theory I have. The blight is a sapsucker mushroom. If you don't know what a sapsucker mushroom is, it's a loose term for a type of mushroom that creates a symbiotic relationship with plants. Rather than eating dead things like the Death Eater mushrooms, it extends the reach of tree roots and feeds on their sap in return. Roots, just like in the dream detailed on the black note. It makes sense. That's why the ground is so active near the forest. That's where the highest density of trees are. That's why the ground breathes as said by the hunter and weeps as the note in the church proclaims. Out of the quest dialogue, the hunter has a chance to tell you that eyeless husks come from the tree line, because that's where the highest concentration of fungus is. The fungus isn't killing the trees, it's taking them over. And that could be the key to destroying the fungus. It's possible that's where the heart of the infection is. But that's just a theory. Again! Anyways, from the church you can actually head west to the bunker entrance. This is where you enter the fields. There will be a note from a high-ranking government official saying that all of Hemcor's operations are backed at the highest level. So it's clear that even though Hemcor is a private company, they have full government backing. If you've gone all the way to the church and bunker, it'll be getting dark again. So you should head back to your base for the 4th night. This night doesn't introduce any new enemies, but it spams a lot of the previous one. So if you have bullets and a gun at this point, it's safe to use some ammo. After the night is over, it's wise to head back to the forest. At this point, you might as well try to do the prayer. It's a Hail Mary, but it doesn't matter since you'll die tomorrow. You'll have to head east past the hunter's cabin. There's bear traps, so you should watch your step. Along the way, you'll come across an old shack. There's a brute and 2 blighted guarding it, so you'll have to take care of them first. Inside the shack, you'll find a bear trap and some ammo, along with an odd box. One might even say, suspicious. Yeah, this is where you use the suspicious key. Opening it up gives you one of the best weapons and guns in the game, the Magnum. Anything you shoot in the head with this thing will die. You'll have to search around the forest for the tree though. It's located southwest of the shack, and it is massive. It's clearly an anomaly. This also lends to the sapsucker mushroom theory. If you do say the prayer here with low sanity, assuming you actually have text chat, then you'll get the permanent effect tree bound. It'll reduce your max stamina but increase your max mind. It's a pretty useless effect, but it does change your chat font and give you glowy eyes. This won't cure you of the blight though. So in order to keep searching, you can go west of the abandoned warehouse. It's a lot like yours, but it's boarded up and the generator is broken. If you want to get in, you'll need a weapon capable of breaking the planks, like the crowbar or axe. You'll need to kill 2 brutes and 3 blighted. There will be a lot of resources here, including all the wood glue you could ever want. There's also a note in the warehouse, written by a previous occupant. It seems they wanted to go south, but with all the zombies and the fact that it was boarded up, it seems like they might not have made it. After this, it'll get dark again, so you'll have no choice but to go back to your base. This time you can pull out all the stops, use every gun and weapon in your arsenal, and put down every bear trap you have. After this night, you'll have cleansed the fields of a lot of enemies. You'll have deadly weapons and stocks of resources, but it doesn't matter because you haven't found a cure. First, your eyes will disappear, then your skin will get pale, then your organs will start to fail, and then currently in 0.3, this version of the game, there's no way to find a cure. You always die on day 5. But it won't even be death. It seems like it's a fate worse than death when you read the ending sequence. This is honestly one of the best games I've ever played on Roblox, and it's not even finished yet. If you still haven't played it, you should. There's also multiplayer, so if you want to play co-op, you can make a lobby of 4. Be aware though, this will increase enemy spawns at night. But you might have noticed there's still a few minutes of the video left. And that's because of this game's event that I want to talk about a little. That is Frostbite. Frostbite was released December of last year. And it was good. You play as a stranded Hemcore operative, fighting against time to rebuild an emergency help radio so Hemcore can lift you out. You're in the fields, but it's a deep winter. You'll have to find a capacitor, hardwiring, and a location transmitter while fighting against the cold. It was a great event with 3 different endings. If you called for help on the 3rd day, you'd be left stranded. If you made it to day 4, you'd have to fight off bandits, and then you'd die from the cold. If you called for help before day 3, you'd get airlifted out of the fields and survive, uninfected. This brings up more questions. Why wasn't the Hemcore operative infected? Did he have a vaccine, or was it the cold suppressing the blight? Why was it so cold, and when did it take place? Where did it take place? Thankfully, even though this event has been removed, the developers say it will be back next winter with more and better content. And, well, that's all I have to say about this game. If you want more in-depth game reviews, then tell me in the comments what game you want to see next. And if you've actually made it this far, thank you very much for watching. Alright, bye. Also, there's a kukri in the game.